Good afternoon, everyone. इसका थोड़ा आवाज बढ़ाना। So I guess we are doing the continental drift theory. So this continental drift theory was given by Wegener. And as per this continental drift theory, there was a supercontinent known as Pangaea. This supercontinent known as Pangaea was surrounded by a great ocean or super ocean known as Panthalassa. This Pangaea was more or less intact before the age of Carboniferous period. That is, after the Carboniferous period, according to Wegener, the Pangaea broke into two parts. And when it broke into two parts, he called the northern part as the Laurasia land and the southern part as the Gondwana land. When the Pangaea broke into two parts, बीच में जो पानी आ गया, this was called by Wegener as the Tethys Sea. Actually, it was not called by Wegener. उससे पहले ही there were 2-3 other thinkers who called this as an Tethys Sea. And the name of that thinker etc. were Arthur Holmes, but हमें वो करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. So it resulted into the formation of Tethys. So this water body which was present in between is Tethys. This Tethys is nothing but the today's Mediterranean Sea. Then afterwards, there were two ways that the continent started moving, and these two ways when the continent started moving was either northwards or southwards. That is, Laurasia, the main Laurasia, after breaking into two parts, the northern part became North America and the Baki ka remained as Eurasia, that is Europe and Asia, and this resulted into the formation of an Atlantic Ocean, and this started moving towards the west. Then South America broke from the other parts of Gondwana land, that is the Africa, maybe peninsular India, Madagascar, Australia, Antarctica. These were the other parts, and the westward movement of even the South America resulted into the S-shaped Atlantic Ocean. As India started moving to the north, water filled in between the Tethys Sea, and niche when the India started moving to the north, it resulted into the opening of an ocean what is known as an Indian Ocean. The original Tethys Sea, because of the northward movements of both the continents, was reduced in size, and today we have that original Tethys Sea as the Mediterranean Sea. Ultimately, he said that this gave rise to the present day arrangement of the continents, and when we see the present day arrangement of the continents, we have North America which is moving to the west, then we have the South America in this region, and this both are, according to Wegener, are moving to the west. Then we have Africa, then we have Europe, Eurasia, and then we have the peninsular India. This peninsular India, as per Wegener, started moving to the north. Due to the northward movement of the peninsular India, matlab peninsular India was somewhere earlier in the southern hemisphere. Due to the northward movement of this peninsular India, जो remaining Tethys Sea था वो बुझ गया, and आज वहाँ पे we have the formation of the Himalayas. ये Wegener ने नहीं कहा that we have Himalayas, but we can understand that the Tethys Sea में जहाँ original Tethys Sea था, we have today the greatest mountains, that is the Himalayas. इसीलिए Himalayas में we find the fossils of fishes, we find the fossils of marine sediments. जो समंदर के नीचे होना चाहिए मिट्टी, जो animals which should be present below the sea water, they are found on the top of the Himalayas. Not in the living form, obviously, they are, unka fossils are formed. We find petroleum in the Himalayas. Himalayas are extremely rich in petrol. कहाँ पे था first oil field of India? Assam, Digboi, and that is an Himalayan region. And you know, petroleum मिलने के chances are greater when the sediments are below the marine water, not below the fresh water. And he said then Africa also started moving westwards, northwards. When the continent started moving northward and southward, the leading edges of the continent, जो edge था continent का, due to friction, it resulted into the formation of the mountains, and we call these mountains as today's as Rockies. As Andes, we can understand Alps and Atlas. So these are the leading edges of the continents which have resulted into the formation of the mountains. But when Wegener was asked, कि ठीक है, if the leading edges of the continents are mountains, then how do you find the explain the formation of the Himalayas? ये तो बीच में है कहीं. He cannot explain the formation of the Himalayas. Second problem of his is the formation of island arcs and festoons. And the third problem of Wegener is that his theory is full of contradiction. He initially says that Sial is floating on Sima without resistance, and then he says that due to resistance there is a formation of mountains. He cannot explain what was the condition before the Carboniferous period. He cannot explain what was the trigger mechanism in the Carboniferous period, and he cannot explain the sequence कि पहले westward गया या पहले northward गया XYZ continents. But still he gave the idea of drifting of the continents, and why this idea of the drifting of the continents, the development was such that we will discuss after writing some of the parts of the Wegener. So Wegener's theory, Wegener's continental drift theory. This theory talks about ये लिखा है?
Yes, sir. Wegener continent in the climate.
Basic assumptions of the theory then. Basic assumptions of the theory. The first assumption, Sial floats on the Sima. Sial is floating on Sima. Why Sial is floating on the Sima? Yesterday we have seen, because which is denser? Sima is denser and Sial is lighter. Next, the forces responsible for the drift are, the forces responsible for drifting are, next assumption, the forces responsible for drifting are, forces responsible for the drifting are, first is the tidal force, that is the gravitational force of sun and moon, gravitational force of the sun and moon for the westward movement of the continents, gravitational force of the sun and moon for the westward movement of the continents. वैसे for the tides which force is more important, moon का या sun का, moon का attraction या sun का attraction? Why? Because gravitational force is inversely proportional to distance. जितना far away is the body, उतना gravitational force is lesser. Gravitational force of sun and moon responsible for westward movement of the continents. Then gravitational force of the earth, gravitational force of the earth and the force of buoyancy, and the force of buoyancy. The force of buoyancy. What is the force of buoyancy? That is, it is a flotation force. क्या है law of flotation? If there is any object which is inside the water body, if this is a water body, the force of the flotation force says that only one part is visible on the top, बाकी का 9 part is below the water body. चाहे वो ship हो, चाहे वो icebergs हो, only one part is visible, बाकी का remaining 9 parts out of, if this body is made up of 10 parts, we divide them into 10 different parts. So एक ही percent, 10%, one part only visible है बाहर, बाकी का 9 parts are below. That is the force of, that is the law of flotation. इन रियल लाइफ कोई फोर्स ऑफ बुएंसी होता नहीं, ये एक मिस्टेक है वेगनर की. देयर इज नो सथिंग नथिंग सच एज फोर्स ऑफ बुएंसी. फोर्स ऑफ बुएंसी क्या है? रेजिस्टेंस बाय द वाटर बॉडी. सो दैट इज वी विल देन से क्या ये सब नहीं होता इन दिस. सो द ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स एंड द फोर्स ऑफ बुएंसी फॉर द नॉर्थवर्ड मूवमेंट ऑफ द कॉन्टिनेंट्स, फॉर द नॉर्थवर्ड मूवमेंट ऑफ द कॉन्टिनेंट्स, for the northward movement of the continents. For the northward movement of the continents. Theory. See, we have geography के answers या कोई scientific subject के answers लिखना is very easy because you can divide them into proper points. Basic postulation, basic assumption, theory, positives, negatives, conclusion. So you try to write such answers in points. क्या पूछा गया? अगर उन्होंने पूछा है पूरा continental drift theory, then over the period of time you do not have to write each and everything. अगर उन्होंने पूछा है critically analyze तो आंसर थोड़ा डिफरेंट हो जाएगा. अगर उन्होंने पूछा है सिर्फ write a short note on continental drift तो ये सब आप लिखोगे. Critically analyze अगर पूछा है तो you'll give more importance to positives and negatives. So the theory, point number 1, before the Carboniferous period, there was a supercontinent known as Pangaea. Which was surrounded by a super ocean known as Panthalassa. Supercontinent known as Pangaea, which was surrounded by a super ocean known as Panthalassa. Same point में. In the Carboniferous period, the Pangaea broke into two parts. In the Carboniferous period. वेगनर नहीं बता पाया. हाँ? क्यों ब्रेक हुआ? He has no answer. ये सब negatives है. ये तो हम कहते हैं कि what was the trigger mechanism for the breaking of the Pangaea? The Pangaea broke into two parts. The northern part was known as Laurasia or Angara land. And the southern part was known as the Gondwana land. The southern part was known as Gondwana land.
Like beta, here, everything I have to know, no need to worry, just do your classes, that's it. एक second.
Into the next, that is the Gondwana land. Now why Gondwana land? Because the Gonds कहाँ पे मिलते हैं? In the central India. You will see over the period of time history maybe you will come to an uprising. Gonds का uprising. So they are known by different names. आजकल news में है एक tribe which is known as Dongaria Gonds और Dongaria Gonds. Again वो इतने सालों से news में है because of an POSCO का setting up of an the plant in Orissa. So Orissa, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, we have in central India Santhals, we have in central India Gonds, we have in central India the Khonds. Khonds ये सब एक ही type के tribes है. Then we will come to the central part of India, Madhya Pradesh और महाराष्ट्र के border पे we will have Bhils. So all this is the central वाला tribal region. So उसमें से the main group is the Gonds and therefore the name is the Gondwana land. Next point, after the Carboniferous period, The broken parts, broken parts matlab Laurasia and Gondwana land, started drifting either northwards and southwards. Started drifting either northwards and southwards. This phase in this phase is known as opening up of the Tethys. This phase is known as opening up of the Tethys. This phase is known as the opening up of the Tethys. You already know where is Tethys? Between the Gondwana and the Laurasia land. Next point, third point. The Laurasia land further broke into North America and Eurasia while the Gondwana land broke into South America. The Gondwana land broke into South America, Africa, Madagascar. Where is Madagascar? When we make this Africa, ये जो part है, island जो बड़ा दिखता है, this is Madagascar. Madagascar, India या Peninsular India क्या लिखोगे? Peninsular India. Australia and Antarctica. Australia and Antarctica. When we'll do Indian geography, we'll see कि आजकल there is a demand to name some of the rocks in the name of Meghalaya because of the Gondwana rocks. इन्हीं regions के rocks के. अब you understand, Pangaea था थोड़ा नीचे, towards the southern part. It was not exactly at the center. It was थोड़ा to the south, and therefore we see even in the today in the southern hemisphere there is Antarctica. ऊपर at the northern hemisphere there was an water body, कुछ नहीं था ऊपर, and even today at the north pole there is Arctic Ocean. It is an water body. Though the northern hemisphere is dominated by the land, north pole पे there is an water body. Though the southern hemisphere is dominated by the water, south pole पे there is a land mass, because Antarctica कहीं move नहीं हुआ. Now why it has not moved, that cannot be explained by the Wegener, because Wegener का forces में ही problem है. Next point, the drifting of both the Americas. The drifting of both the Americas. Both the Americas means North and South America. The drifting of both the Americas westwards resulted into the opening of S-shaped Atlantic Ocean. S-shaped Atlantic Ocean resulted into the opening of S-shaped Atlantic Ocean. The northward drifting of India and Africa reduce the size of Tethys Sea. ब्रैकेट में ही लिख सकते हो आप प्रेजेंट डे मेडिटरेनियन सी. present day Mediterranean Sea. and also opened up Indian Ocean. And also opened up Indian Ocean. And also opened up Indian Ocean. Next point. Also opened up Indian Ocean. So before I go, can I say Atlantic Ocean and Indian Ocean are new as compared to the Pacific Ocean? हम यही बाद में पढ़ेंगे. Can I say Atlantic Ocean and Indian Ocean are expanding while the Pacific Ocean is contracting? As per Wegener, Pacific Ocean का original size जो था Panthalassa का, it is now reducing. So is the Pacific Ocean contracting? Yes. Is the Atlantic Ocean expanding? अगर हमने Wegener को ही माना, that is the Americas are moving westwards. Can I say Indian Ocean is moving northwards? So is the Indian Ocean also expanding? Yes. And this has been proved by the plate tectonic theory. Remember, जितना सेंटीमीटर हिमालयास का हाइट बढ़ता है उतना एक्सपांड होता है इंडियन ओशन. If the Himalaya height increases by 15 centimeters, Indian Ocean is going to expand by 15 centimeters. If the Himalaya height increases by 5 centimeters every year, the Indian Ocean expands by 5 centimeters every year.
It is said कि जो हमारा इंडिया का वेस्ट कोस्ट है, that is submerging and east coast that is emerging. तो सर वेगनर की थ्योरी उसको प्रूव करती है?
ना वो कोई भी थियरी प्रूव नहीं करेगी. दैट इज अ डिफरेंट कंसेप्ट इटसेल्फ. दैट इज रिवर्स. वेयर आर द बिग रिवर्स गोइंग इन इंडिया? टू द ईस्टर्न कोस्ट. ईस्टर्न कोस्ट में दे आर गोइंग एंड पुटिंग लार्ज अमाउंट ऑफ सेडिमेंट्स, इसलिए इमर्ज्ड. वो हम प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थियरी में करेंगे. दैट इज द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ हिमालयाज. Yes, that is what plate tectonic theory बताएगा. उसके बाद वो सबमर्ज हो गया. उस जैसे वो सबमर्ज हो गया तो हम कहते हैं सबमर्ज कोस्ट लाइन. वेस्टर्न कोस्ट इज सबमर्ज कोस्ट लाइन. इसीलिए व्हेन वी से इंडस, पुराने लोग कहते थे सप्त सिंधु, आज हम कहते हैं इंडस इज मेड अप ऑफ 5 ट्रिब्यूटरीज. एक ज़माने में दिस रीजन वाज सरस्वती रिवर. टुडे द सरस्वती रिवर इज नॉट देयर. हम ये धीरे धीरे करके आएंगे. इट विल टेक लॉट ऑफ टाइम. नहीं समझ में आएगा. सो plate tectonics, you will understand that in plate tectonics. Just remember this some concepts. We are building up numerous concepts. बाद में समझ में आएगा over the period of time, because the geomorphology will be the base of Indian geography. Geomorphology will be the base of everything. So दो questions ज़्यादा नहीं आएंगे इसमें से. If you go and see past year questions, इसमें से ज़्यादा questions नहीं आते geomorphology में से, but still if you look that सबसे ज़्यादा time geomorphology में इसलिए लगता है because this is the base of geography. Once you understand this, then Indian geography is only facts. Once you understand plate tectonics, then writing how the Himalayas are formed is easy. Once you understand plate tectonics, then writing the Great Plains of India, Khadar, Bangar, Tarai is very easy. Once you understand the formation of delta, then why the western coast of India does not have delta, why the eastern coast of India has delta is very easy. So Indian Ocean. Next point is according to Wegener, while drifting, the edges of the continents, due to friction and resistance, were folded due to friction and resistance were folded to form the mountains such as Rockies, Andes, etc. Form the mountains such as Rockies, Andes, etc. Next point. According to him, that is the island arcs and festoons. Island arcs and festoons island arcs and festoons were formed. Island arcs and festoons were formed due to the differential rate of movement, differential rate of movement मतलब different rate of movement, due to the differential rate of movement, full stop. Some parts were left behind, some parts were left behind, giving rise to island arcs, Next, that is the last point. The original Panthalassa was reduced in size. To form present day Pacific Ocean. So Pacific Ocean is an example of an contracting ocean. हम यही प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स में देखेंगे. This is what is known as a Pacific Ring of Fire. क्यों contract हो रहा है, etc. Now next point here is the criticisms of Wegener, or the criticisms of Wegener's theory. Wegener की नहीं, Wegener's के theory की, or the continental drift theory. Criticism of continental drift theory. What is the first criticism? That is, the theory cannot explain the forces responsible for the drift. That is the first criticism. He cannot explain the forces responsible for the drift. Because the tidal force cannot be so strong. And now understand here, दूसरा फोर्स कौन सा था? ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स. अब ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स ऑफ द अर्थ इज ग्रेटेस्ट कहाँ पे? एट द पोल्स और एट द इक्वेटर? Now forget about the gravitational force poles पे या इक्वेटर पे. Can I say Earth is exactly round या Earth is bulge at the equator and it is more or less flat at the poles? So if we say कि gravitational force is responsible for drifting of the continents, तो सारे के सारे continents should be at the equator or at the poles. It cannot be at the different parts. क्यों? क्योंकि जहाँ पे gravitational force is सबसे ज़्यादा, all the continents should be attracted there. So as all the continents should be attracted there, that is, if you are saying that if the gravitational force is greatest at the poles, तो सारे continents drift होके poles के पास जाने चाहिए. If you are saying that the gravitational force is greatest at the equator, then the सारे के सारे continents should be near the equator. But that is not the case. Gravitational force हम यहाँ पे अंदर से अगर मानेंगे, from the center of the earth, tell me gravitational force is stronger at the poles or at the equator? Why at the poles? Distance from the center of the earth is greater at the poles or at the equator? So I am not telling you abhi कि gravitational force is greater at the equator or at the poles. So you continue writing there. Cannot be so strong, and therefore this forces cannot be responsible. For the rifting and drifting of the continents. These forces cannot be responsible for the rifting and drifting of the continents. cannot be responsible for rifting and the drifting of the continents. Third point. This is the first point. So second point is Wegener could not explain the trigger mechanism. Now trigger mechanism means exactly क्या हुआ था. What was the force trigger mechanism for the breaking of the Pangea, in the Carboniferous period. For breaking of the Pangea in the Carboniferous period. Breaking of the Pangea in the Carboniferous period. Next point. He could not explain the sequence of breaking and drifting of the continents. He could not even explain the sequence of breaking and drifting of the continents. Coriolis force winds. यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं, nothing here. He could not even explain the breaking and the drifting of the continents. अभी किसी बुक्स में यही पॉइंट दिया है in a different language. Wegener could not explain why Pangea was intact before the Carboniferous period. हमने उल्टा लिखा है, he could not explain why Pangea broke after the Carboniferous period. So you should remember both the languages are same. Next point. There were lot of errors in the Wegener's theory. Regarding the formation of the mountains, island arcs and festoons. Formation of the mountains, island arcs and festoons. So क्या हुआ था over the period of time? His theory was rejected. Don't have to write his theory was rejected. See, when you give any theory in science, you have to show the cause and effect. उसके सिवा वो theory नहीं होती. You have to show properly in the laboratory settings also कि ऐसे ऐसे हुआ था. Wegener could not explain the cause and effect also. कि क्यों हुआ, what were the forces that are responsible for the drift, कौन पहले move हुआ, are they moving, etc. He could not explain. So then why do we study theory? Because the next point is evidences. कुछ evidences Wegener ने दिए, कुछ evidences बाद में पता लगे. So over the period of time we do not go into detail कि कौन सा Wegener ने दिया and कौन सा बाद में पता लगा. We just take the evidences as it is. Now the biggest evidence of the continental drift theory is किसका shape India का. That is what is known as the jigsaw fit of the continents. And इसमें you should, if you can make this diagram, ये diagram बनाना जरूर. We make Africa, and then we make South America. And this is what we call it as a jigsaw fit of the continents. That is, the continents of South America and Africa exactly fit into each other. The continents of South America and Africa exactly fit into each other. This is what is known as an jigsaw fit. Not just America and South America, पूरा coast of the Atlantic Ocean exactly fits into each other. But we can write even in general studies that this is the jigsaw fit of the continents. Now ये jigsaw fit Wegener को नहीं पता था. This was done by another geographer known as Dutot. और वो भी कैसे discover हुआ? That this geographer was thinking on some theory and he required a sufficient amount of time. तो उसको एक 8 साल का बेटा था जो उसको हमेशा परेशान करता था. That the obviously the children are curious, they will keep on पापा ये क्यों. So बेटे का ध्यान भटकाने के लिए उसने बहुत बड़ा पजल सॉल्व करने दिया बेटे को. एंड जब पजल सॉल्व करने दिया उसको लगा 1-1.5 घंटा उससे पजल सॉल्व नहीं होगा. बट हिज सन केम आफ्टर 15-20 मिनट्स की पजल सॉल्व हो गया. एंड ही वाज सरप्राइज कि इतने जल्दी कैसे इतना डिफिकल्ट पजल सॉल्व किया. बोला कुछ नहीं, पीछे वर्ल्ड मैप था तो मैंने सारे कॉन्टिनेंट्स को एक दूसरे में जोड़ दिए. एंड देन उसको रियलाइज़ हुआ जब उसने देखा तो ये तो जिक्सॉ फिट है ऑफ द कॉन्टिनेंट्स. एंड देन सडनली केम द वेगनर के ऊपर. दिस इज 1930s की बात है. 1912 के बाद डायरेक्टली 1930s ने. सो यू कैन से कि एविडेंस एक 8 साल के बेटे ने ढूंढ के निकाला है रादर दैन द जियोग्राफर्स ऑफ हाउ द कॉन्टिनेंट्स फिट इनटू ईच अदर. बिकॉज उससे पजल सॉल्व नहीं हुआ था, उसने पीछे किया और देखा कि ये सारे कॉन्टिनेंट्स को अगर उसने जोड़ दिया गोंडवाना लैंड को तो ये पजल सॉल्व हो रहा है. So this is what is known as a jigsaw fit of the continents. Next point is the rocks of same age. Rocks of same age types are found across Atlantic. I mean by this कि if these are the two continents, ये जो rock है across this of South America and this rock of Africa is more or less belonging to the same type and the same age. This rock and this rock is same. In fact, this rock is very different from the surrounding rock. It is same as the African rock. So this is what is meant by the rocks of the same age are found across the Atlantic. इसी point में the mountains of Appalachian, Ireland and Scandinavian countries. Ireland and Scandinavian countries are similar. Ireland and Scandinavian countries are similar. This is possible only if the continents were joined together. This is possible only if the continents were joined together. This is possible only if the continents were joined together. What does this point means? कि ये Appalachian mountains जो है, it is similar to the mountains of Ireland and it is similar to the mountains of Scandinavia. So इसीलिए हमने इसका application देखा है. If the Appalachians are famous for coal, so यहाँ पे भी coal मिलना चाहिए. So we have done Kiruna is famous for Sweden का, it is famous for coal. We have done this. Kiruna is famous for the coal deposits in Sweden. Now what does it mean कि ये सारा part was once together and इसीलिए there are mountains. ये सारा एक line similar है. Now you just imagine you have to fix this here. That is why there is a depression here. You just take this continent and fix it in this and ये continent एक बन जाता है. Getting it? Next point. There are huge gold deposits in Africa. There are huge gold deposits in Western Africa, in the Western Africa. especially Ghana, especially Ghana, especially Ghana. What is the old name of Ghana? Gold Coast. Old name of Ghana is Gold Coast. But the gold bearing rocks are found across Atlantic in South America. But the gold bearing rocks are found across Atlantic in South America. Found across Atlantic in South America. इसका ये मीनिंग है इन सिंपल वर्ड्स दैट गोल्ड हमेशा याद रखना इज अ प्लेसर डिपॉजिट्स. Gold are generally as a placer deposits. Now what are the placer deposits? Placer deposits are those deposits which are found in river. Now suppose if this is a rock, ऐसा तो नहीं होता कि पूरा rock सोने से है. There are some of the traces of gold in this rocks. And this traces of the gold, if the river is flowing through this region, this traces of the gold will be carried by the river. And जहाँ पे river की speed is less, is reduced, we will find that the gold is deposited here. And thus, over the period of time, the gold deposits keep on increasing. Because इस rock में जो gold है, it is not economically viable for mining. Because for mining activity, there has to be large amount of deposits. नीचे के rocks में अभी भी, if you go down, राजेंद्र नगर में कोई भी मिट्टी उठाओ, कोई भी rock उठाओ, उसमें iron मिलेगा ही थोड़ा बहुत. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप आयरन और माइन डालोगे यहाँ पे. इट हैज टू बी कमर्शियली वायबल. सो दिस इज व्हाट सरप्राइजिंगली वी सी गोल्ड बियरिंग रॉक्स है यहाँ पे इन साउथ अमेरिका एंड गोल्ड डिपॉजिट्स कहाँ पे है? इन अफ्रीका. दिस इज वेयर घाना इज. नाउ कैन यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाई? विच रिवर इज हियर? Amazon river. Most of the rivers in the older times जब कॉन्टिनेंट एक साथ थे, then we find here that is the gold bearing rocks were carried by the river and as a placer deposits they were placed in the Africa wala region. Getting it? So gold is always, in the bracket you write, gold is always found as the placer deposits. Gold is found as an placer deposits. हमारे इंडिया में भी द गोल्ड माइंस जो है दे आर अलोंग द रिवर्स. एक रिवर है विच वॉज वंस अपॉन अ टाइम फेमस फॉर गोल्ड माइनिंग एंड विल डू ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. इट इज नोन एज सुवर्ण रेखा या सुबर्ण रेखा रिवर. विच स्टेट? सुवर्ण रेखा, झारखंड. थर्ड एविडेंस, fourth I have told you rocks and gold as a same kind of an evidence, but उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. The fourth evidence is behavior of animals. Behavior of animals. And इसमें the case study is so one is that the animals in Africa, Europe, even today have the tendency to run westwards. Even today have the tendency to run westwards. Even today have the tendency to run westwards. Tendency to run westwards. This is best explained by the lemmings. This is best explained by the lemmings. This is best explained by the lemmings. of Scandinavia. Of Scandinavia. Lemmings of Scandinavia. Now what is lemming? Lemmings are small rat-sized animals in Scandinavian mountains. You can say they are similar to the rats of हमारे यहाँ पे जो rats है वैसे ही they are similar in Norway, Sweden, Finland, etc. Now if you look at the coast of Norway, Sweden, Finland, this coast of Norway, Sweden, Finland is known as Jord. No need of writing. Now what is this Jord? कि this is the coast. अगर ये है समंदर तो यहाँ पे the coast consists of very very tall mountains, and as soon as the mountains end, the sea starts. इंडिया में ऐसा नहीं है. इंडिया में the coast is very gentle. That is from the land, the sea and land का level में ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं है. But the Jord coastline is coast in which there is very very tall mountains surrounding the sea coast. आपने movies में भी देखा होगा. They generally show a river cliff or a mountain, and generally वहाँ से roads भी जाते हैं. This lemmings are known for mass suicide whenever their population increases. Now, actually, it is not a mass suicide. Whenever their population increases, they start migrating westwards, thinking कि आज भी the continent are intact. When they start migrating westwards in batch, the first जो है, जो lead कर रहा है, जो first group है, वो यहाँ पे आके directly they fall into sea, and then they realize कि नहीं, यहाँ पे the sea is there and there is no continent. Why do they migrate westwards? They migrate westwards because उनको आज भी लगता है कि the Europe and America is intact, and therefore they start migrating westwards. But when they reach the coast, most of them fall into the sea and die. Even today, अफ्रीका के जंगलों में अगर आग लगती है तो animals do not run eastwards, they run westwards, thinking कि they can go easily into Brazil. Why? क्योंकि ईस्ट में लैंड नहीं था. Even in Madagascar, if anything happens, the animals start running westwards, especially those animals जिनका brain आज तक इतना develop नहीं हुआ है कि they have, उनका genes have not changed, आज भी the defense mechanism is the same उनका ये, because these actions are reflexive. जो over the period of time करते आ रहे हो वही आप करोगे, reflexive action. So reflexive action of lemmings is population increase हो रहा है, go westwards. उनको बहुत generation लगेगी to realize कि west में जाने से there is a death. Now why they run westwards? Because उनको लगता है North America and Europe are intact. So that is what is the lemmings का behavior. Now we are going to write in very simple words. Lemmings migrate westwards whenever there is population increase, but they fall into the sea. They fall into the sea on the Norway coast. Fifth, distribution of fossils. So there are numerous fossils which have been found in such a way कि अगर ये अफ्रीका है and this is South America, the fossils are found in such a way कि उनका आधी body is found in South America and आधी body is found in Africa, because when they died etc. and उसके बाद continental drift हुआ. But we don't write this as an evidence. We write what is present today, that is in Brazil or in South America we find some plants. The same plants are found in Africa. The same plants are found in peninsular India. The same plants are found in Australia, and the same plants are found in Antarctica. The reason for this is why we are writing more about the plants. Animals फिर भी आप मान सकते हो कि they have migrated. Can you expect that plants have migrated, swam across Atlantic and came and settled in Africa? उसके बाद they have migrated, came and settled in India. India से they have migrated and came and settled in Australia? नहीं. So this is one of the evidences of the fossils. उसमें we have to write one specific evidence. The second, and ये एक main evidence है. वैसे तो there are numerous such evidences, but I am giving you evidence that is present in NCERT. That is, many fossils of flora and fauna. Many fossils of flora and fauna. Many fossils of flora and fauna are found in Brazil, Africa, peninsular India, and Australia. Peninsular India and Australia. Example is Glossopteris flora. तो यही ऑप्शनल होता, मैं आपको 3-4 और एविडेंस बता देता. दैट इज वी वुड हैव रिटन दिस इज द लैंड ऑफ लेमुर्स और लेमुरिया. लेमुर्स मतलब जो पुराना गोंडवाना लैंड है, वहीं पे आज भी सिर्फ बंदर मिलेंगे, बंदर और कहीं नहीं मिलेंगे. यू विल फाइंड मंकीज ओनली इन साउथ अमेरिका, यू विल फाइंड मंकीज ओनली इन अफ्रीका, ओनली इन पेनिनसुलर इंडिया एंड टू सम एक्सटेंट इन ऑस्ट्रेलिया. यूरोप में जाओ, यू विल नॉट फाइंड मंकीज. दैट इज नॉट द लैंड ऑफ मंकीज. दैट इज व्हेन अलेक्जेंडर केम टू इंडिया फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम. This region was once a densely forested region. जो आज डेजर्ट है, जो आज राजस्थान का डेजर्ट है, जो पंजाब का सेमी एरिड रीजन है, it was once densely forested. इसलिए we have हड़प्पा एंड मोहनजोदाड़ो civilization. यहाँ पे पानी बहुत ज़्यादा था of river सरस्वती. So when Alexander entered India for the first time, they had, एक तो इन्होंने इतना dense forest देखा नहीं था because इंडिया में तब tropical evergreen forest का some part था. So when they came for the first time, they saw monkeys, and monkeys आदमी जैसे दिखते हैं. अब if you are looking at the first time for the monkeys, तो उन्होंने तब WhatsApp तो नहीं था कि photos पहले चला गया monkeys का, तो they thought these are the soldiers of Nanda's army, and they started fighting with the monkeys. So when they started fighting with the monkeys, now if you start fighting with the monkeys तो और entertainment देगा. They started climbing the trees etc. and they started dodging. तो उनको भी लगा कि हाँ ये, but unfortunately ये part of history हमें कोई बताता नहीं है. That is the Alexander the Great ही हम पढ़ते हैं. We do not realize कि how some of the mistakes were then made. ये नहीं बताएगा मे भी कोई कि वो monkeys से हार गए and then they decided कि ये country जीत के कोई फायदा नहीं है. So they went back. But this is how they got the first taste of India. That is when they entered India. So because this part of India was once so densely forested कि यहाँ पे monkeys भी थे और यहाँ पे rhinos भी थे in this part of India. Today rhino is found only in Assam, but this was the part when there was rhinos, and टाइगर्स इतने ज़्यादा नहीं थे बट लायंस भी थे. इसीलिए यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड इन हिस्ट्री वाई हड़प्पा एंड मोहनजोदाड़ो के सील पे यू हैव राइनोस. कहाँ पे था हड़प्पा एंड मोहनजोदाड़ो? आज का हरियाणा, गुजरात एंड टू सम एक्सटेंट राजस्थान वाला रीजन एंड पाकिस्तान. आज तो यहाँ पे राइनोस भी नहीं है, बट हड़प्पा एंड मोहनजोदाड़ो पीपल हैड सीन राइनोस. दे हैड सारनाथ के पिलर पे लायंस है. आज लायंस कहाँ पे? सिर्फ गुजरात में, बट सारनाथ का पिलर हैज लायंस. नाउ यू हैव टू जस्ट यूज द लॉजिक कि उस जमाने में ये नहीं था, सैटेलाइट्स नहीं थे उस ज़माने में, फोटोज़ नहीं थे कि लायन का फोटो किसी ने उनको भेजा आसाम से या गुजरात से, या राइनो का फोटो भेजा आसाम से एंड फिर उन्होंने कार्विंग की. ऐसे नहीं था. दिस वॉज द रीजन विच वॉज वंस डेंसली फॉरेस्टेड. सो दैट इज द next point is is the evidences of glaciation. Evidences of glaciation. Evidences of glaciation in Brazil, Africa. There are evidences of glaciation in Brazil, Africa, peninsular India, Australia, etc. Australia, etc. Why what we found here, why we find here, just remember ये word, ये लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं, but ये we find here glacial till. Prelims में question कैसे आता है? That till are the deposits which are found by the which erosion agent? River, glaciers, etc. Now till are found by the in the regions जहाँ पे we have glaciation. What is till? Very very fine rock. आटे इतना fine rock. Now that is known as a till. अब आटे इतना fine rock क्या कब मिलेगा, या आटे इतना fine sediment कब मिलेगा? When it has been compressed, when it has been crushed, when it has been broken. So river, does it have that much crushing power? No. So obviously glaciers have very high crushing power, and therefore jahan glaciers are there, wherever there are glaciers, the rocks, the sediments are compressed to such an extent that they become very very fine. Example of what we use many times, it is also an example of a rock, sedimentary rock which has been crushed, and you know that as multani mitti. That is a very very fine sediment. Talcum powder itna fine sediment hai multani mitti, that is found in some regions jahan pe it has been crushed. An example of sediment which we eat is common salt. It is also an example of an sedimentary rock. And all this will tell you many things कि क्या था पहले. अगर आज rocks are found in some region, इसका मतलब है they are once sea was there. If glacial till, इतना fine sediments are found in such region, इसका मतलब it was once glaciated. अगर if the alluvial deposits are found in some region, इसका मतलब it was once under the rivers. So this are why we say present is key to the past. ये geography का एक rule है, law है geography का, that present is key to the past. By looking at the present landform, you can imagine what were the past climatic conditions. For example, पिछले साल हरियाणा गवर्नमेंट ने एक प्रोजेक्ट लिया था, when they started digging up the flood plains या the channel of river Ghaggar. Why? Because river Ghaggar को जब उन्होंने dig किया तो नीचे they found there is a big valley, and thus we are very sure that एक ज़माने में यहाँ पे सरस्वती river थी which was very very mighty. हमारे mythology में आज भी है गंगा जमुना सरस्वती. So this was the one Saraswati river. जमुना मतलब कौन सी river? आज यमुना, but उस समय जमुना was ब्रह्मपुत्रा river. आज भी जमुना का नाम ब्रह्मपुत्रा का नाम इन बांग्लादेश इज जमुना. सो आज हमने यमुना कहा है इसको ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, बट इट वाज गंगा जमुना सरस्वती, द थ्री बिग रिवर्स ऑफ इंडिया. So we find glacial till, we find the evidences of glaciation in the peninsular India. Should it be found in the peninsular India? No. Should it be found in Africa? No. Should it be found in Brazil? No. But it is found in this region plus Antarctica. ठीक. We should not find any plant in Antarctica, but we find the fossils of this flora in Antarctica. बाकी की जगह मिलता है, it is very much understandable, but it is found in Antarctica because आज Antarctica में सिर्फ क्या है? Ice caps है. वहाँ पे life नहीं है. Except for some of the very very fine kind of plants, but we find Glossopteris flora in this region. So इससे क्या conclude होता है? Can you conclude that the continents were together? They broke. Can I say Wegener की theory is right? और बहुत सारे evidences है, but I am not making you write all the evidences. One of the evidences exactly S shape of Atlantic. Over the studies we have found, आज technology है हमारे पास, we have found that this is because the North America and South America are moving at a different rate. North America का rate of movement is slightly faster than that of an South America. इसलिए we have an S-shaped Atlantic Ocean. ये North and South America westward ही जा रहे हैं, but at a different rate. North America थोड़ा ज़्यादा fast है, so ये part ऐसे हुआ है, and this is relatively slower. Second example, which we do not do here, is again the Mediterranean Sea wala region. That is, the once upon a time ka Mediterranean Sea is today at many places it is buried below the water. It is buried below the mountains. Example, just open the map, world map in your atlas. Yeah, map of Asia in the atlas. Open the world map, पीछे के side से. Page number 104. And you can see in the world map, world physical. You can see in the world physical का map that the latitude, जिस latitude पे Himalayas है, if you go exactly to the western part of the world, उसी latitudes पे Mediterranean Sea. And आज हमें पता है कि the rate of movement of Indian plate is slightly faster than that of an African plate. So Indian plate के जहाँ जहाँ Indian plate था, वहाँ पे Tethys Sea has been removed and Himalayas है वहाँ पे. So this all can be used as an evidences of the continental drift theory. Are they at the same latitudes, Himalayas and Mediterranean Sea? They are at the same latitudes. इसलिए मैंने आपको first lecture में बताया कि in Indian mythology, Samudra Manthan gave rise to Meru Mandar. There was a Samudra Manthan, tug of war between Dev and Danav in Indian mythology. और उसमें से एक पहाड़ निकला. That is the Meru Mandar. उसमें से बहुत सारी चीजें निकली, वो हमें नहीं करना है, हमें सिर्फ geography का सोचना है. उसमें से एक पहाड़ निकला and that is Meru Mandar. The geography says that is the Himalayas came out of the Tethys Sea. इसीलिए we find numerous marine sediments in the Tethys Sea. Fine with this? So should we reject or accept Wegener? So has there been drifting of the continents? Yes. Has there been rifting? Yes, rifting and drifting. Was there something known as Tethys Sea कि एक continent साथ में थे and did they separate? Yes, we saw an example. Animals से लेके we have seen the example in the terms of rocks, etc. So can I say yes, Wegener was right? Yes. But what was the wrong? Yes, forces. So conclusion is in such a way. Now before we write the conclusion, just remember उसके बाद क्या हुआ. Over the period of time, there was a person known as Arthur Holmes. And Arthur Holmes, over the period of time, gave the forces which are responsible for drift in his convectional current theory. There was a person who was known as Harry Hess. And he gave a concept of sea floor spread. And then there was one large theory which is known as an plate tectonic theory. And this plate tectonic theory gave answer to each and everything. This plate tectonic theory was not given by a single scientist. It was given by numerous people, numerous different scientists, by taking up the ideas from the Wegener. So what has happened over the period of time, you should understand this. Wegener ने idea दी थी in 1912. and he could imagine all these things without the help of satellites, without the help of computers. ट्राइंग टू इमेजिन कि एक साथ कॉन्टिनेंट्स थे, तब वर्ल्ड मैप वो सब नहीं था, तब ऐसा नहीं था कि प्लेन से के ऊपर से गया और देखा पूरा वर्ल्ड कैसा है एंड देन ही केम एंड रोट अ थियरी. All this had to come on mathematical calculations and imagination. All this had to come with the proper explanation, and that is the good thing about Wegener. Imagine 1912 में क्या था हमारा most of the situation, especially in India. आज भी बिल्ली काटने के बाद हम रुक जाते हैं. So साइंटिफिक थिंकिंग का टेम्पर जो वेगनर ने डेवलप किया था, फिर उसको जब स्टडी किया गया तो आर्थर होम्स की कन्वेक्शनल करंट थियरी आई, हैरी हेस की सी फ्लोर स्प्रेडिंग थियरी आई, और उसके बाद ये तीनों थियरी को कंबाइन करके जब कंप्यूटर्स आए 1965-66 में, तो मॉडल बनाना कंप्यूटर्स के बाद उसके अंदर सॉफ्टवेयर डाल के सी द मैथमेटिकल मॉडल्स, उसके बाद गिविंग दिस थियरी इज़ वेरी इजी, प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थियरी. But to imagine that thing in 1912 was not that easy, because इससे पहले thinking was कि earth is flat, earth is very very flat, so don't cross, don't go into voyage, don't go at many places, otherwise because the earth is flat, अगर आप इस edge पे रहते हो तो गिर जाओगे और नीचे फिर पाताल में चले जाओगे. It was the Wegener who said कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. There were, that is, उसके पहले आया earth is round, उसके बाद आया अर्थ इज राउंड. फिर भी द थिंकर्स वाज कि ग्रीस इज द सेंटर ऑफ द वर्ल्ड एंड द सन गोज अराउंड द अर्थ, रिस्पेक्टिंग द ग्रीस एंड रोमन किंगडम. ये सब थिंकिंग किसने चेंज की ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम? बाय दिस थिंकर्स. उसमें गैलीलियो भी है, उसमें मैनी पीपल आर देयर, बट वन ऑफ द इंपॉर्टेंट पर्सन इज वेगनर. सो कंक्लूजन में कैन आई राइट that though Wegener was wrong in applying the forces, though there were many faults for the Wegener ka theory, but the Wegener's central idea of drifting of the continents was accepted, and his idea led to the development of a big theory which is known as plate tectonic theory, which gives answer to all the problems or all the geographical phenomena that are present in the world. आज प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थियरी कहता है कि अर्थक्वेक्स कहाँ होंगे, एंड इट इज राइट. आज प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थियरी टेल्स यू व्हाई देयर आर माउंटेन्स एट XYZ प्लेसेस. टुडे द प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थियरी कैन इवन टेल कि वेयर देयर विल बी वॉल्केनोज और नो वॉल्केनोज. सो which part is in the news currently? आज भी फिर से अर्थक्वेक हुआ वहां पे, इंडोनेशिया, लोम्बॉक आइलैंड्स, अगेन इंडोनेशिया का. When we started तभी भी अर्थक्वेक हुआ था, कल रात को भी अर्थक्वेक हुआ. It was much greater in intensity. That is because the plate tectonic theory says कि Indian plate and the Pacific plate are colliding there. Now, what are these plates etc. But this theory के लिए पहले idea होनी चाहिए थी, and this idea was given by the Wegener. So write a conclusion is though Wegener could not explain the rifting and drifting of the continents, but his central idea, though Wegener could not explain the forces responsible for the drift, but his central idea of drifting helped in the development of plate tectonic theory. Helped in the development of plate tectonic theory. Helped in the development of an plate tectonic theory. क्वेश्चंस कैसे आते हैं? Simple, they can ask you write a short note on the continental drift theory. Yeah, 200 words में. They can ask you specifically examine the evidences. Yeah, point out the limitations of the continental drift theory. And the third answer can be critically analyze the continental drift theory. So अगर question is question number 1, tell me the structure of this question. क्या लिखोगे आप? Write a short note on the continental drift theory.
What is continental drift theory and by whom? What are its basic assumptions and evidences?
तो आप सारा लिखोगे. टू 200 वर्ड्स मतलब कितने पेजेस? ये अगर यूपीएससी की साइज है तो कितने पेजेस मिलेंगे आपको 200 वर्ड्स में? अगर क्वेश्चन है 200 वर्ड्स मतलब कितने पेजेस मिलेंगे? 3 पेजेस मैक्सिमम. ज्योग्राफी अगर है तो 3 पेजेस, कुछ कुछ सब्जेक्ट्स में 2.5 पेज. दैट इज दिस इज पेज नंबर 1, दिस इज पेज नंबर 2, this is page number 3. Anyone is having blank book? So ये पेज की साइज नहीं होती. क्या होता है, बड़ी स्केल से घर पे जाके यहाँ पे एक लाइन मारो, यहाँ पे एक लाइन मारो, यहाँ पे एक लाइन मारो और यहाँ पे एक लाइन मारो, और ये है राइटिंग स्पेस 14 सेंटीमीटर्स. सो उसमें आपको लिखना है इन द एग्जामिनेशन. सो व्हेन वी राइट इन द एग्जामिनेशन, घर पे जाके लिख के देखो, द राइट अ शॉर्ट नोट ऑन द कॉन्टिनेंटल ड्रिफ्ट थियरी. मेक श्योर दैट यू आर नॉट क्रॉसिंग द 3 पेजेस एंड टेल मी वेदर यू कैन राइट इट और नॉट. अगर आप सब लिखोगे तो डेफिनेशन, फिर फोर्सेस, द थियरी, पॉइंट नंबर 1, पॉइंट नंबर 2, पॉइंट नंबर 3, पॉइंट नंबर 4, एक डायग्राम, आंसर खत्म. There is no space for evidences, there is no space for this thing. So when you write a short note, understand the demand of the question. continental drift का short note पूछा है. So short note जो लिखोगे, definition of a continental drift, उसके बाद quickly write forces responsible. उसमें explain करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. The forces responsible are x, y, z. Basic assumption लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Basic assumption is understood that Cl is floating on the सीमा. Then write the theory in detail. Properly लिखो theory. Point जितने भी points है. They have not asked you positives and negatives. They have not asked you the evidences and limitations. They have asked you the theory. And this you can write the conclusion. Thus this is how it explains the present day arrangement of the continents. If you उसके बाद भी if you have time, you can write the positives and negatives also. लिमिटेशंस एंड एविडेंसेस पूछा है तो कैसे आप लिखोगे? इफ इट इज अगेन इन 200 वर्ड्स, व्हाट विल बी द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द आंसर? विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम विच पॉइंट? द क्वेश्चन इज राइट अ शॉर्ट नोट ऑन द लिमिटेशंस ऑफ द कॉन्टिनेंटल ड्रिफ्ट थियरी. कैसे आप स्टार्ट करोगे आंसर को? यू विल डायरेक्टली स्टार्ट विद द लिमिटेशन या थोड़ा बैकग्राउंड बताओगे? You will have to give little bit of an background. That is, continental drift theory was given by Alfred Wegener. According to his theory, the supercontinent Pangaea broke into numerous parts. The breaking and the drifting of the supercontinent Pangaea has given rise to the present day arrangement of the continents. So, बाकी का सब आपने छोड़ दिया. It has given rise directly to the present day arrangement of the continents. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट में, बट देयर आर सेवरल लिमिटेशंस ऑफ दिस थियरी एंड देन लिमिटेशन 1, लिमिटेशन 2, एक्सेट्रा. कंक्लूजन में, दो दिस थियरी हैज न्यूमरस लिमिटेशंस, बट दिस थियरी हैज हेल्प्ड इन द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ एन प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थियरी. फाइन विद दिस? सो ऐसा नहीं कि लिमिटेशंस मतलब डायरेक्टली लिमिटेशन से स्टार्ट करोगे. ऑलवेज गिव अ ब्रीफ बैकग्राउंड. of anything. And now you tell me how you will write this. What do you mean by critically analyze anything? Pros and cons. So how will you start with the critically analysis? किससे start करोगे? Remember, हमेशा brief introduction देना ही पड़ेगा. What do you mean by critical analysis? Critical analysis का meaning is whenever question comes on the critical analysis of anything, you have to give a brief background of that particular thing. उसके बाद you mention some positive points, you have to mention some negative points, and lastly you have to write the conclusion in your own language. You have to always write a conclusion. This is the expect in the critical analysis. Critical analysis कभी भी confusion हो तो सिर्फ इतना ये example याद रखना. It is like a movie critic writing a review of a movie in a newspaper. So when he writes a review of a movie in the newspaper, वो थोड़ी background देता है उस मूवी का, पूरा स्टोरी नहीं बताता मूवी का, वो सिर्फ ब्रीफ आइडिया दे देता है, द जिस्ट ऑफ अ मूवी. उसके बाद वो बताता है क्या पॉजिटिव्स है, उसके बाद वो बताता है क्या नेगेटिव्स है, और लास्ट में बताता है आपने जाके देखना चाहिए कि नहीं, राइट? और वो स्टार रेटिंग भी देता है. तो सेम थिंग इज देयर इन द क्रिटिकल एनालिसिस, अ ब्रीफ बैकग्राउंड, वेरी ब्रीफ बैकग्राउंड. Then this brief background can take around 20 to 30% of our answer. Then positives or negatives and conclusion. So if you consider this as 20%, or you can change this also a little bit. I have given you a conclusion also. उस conclusion को थोड़ा आगे पीछे मरोड़ के, means you have to change this language and write. अब critical analysis में conclusion in your own words, हमेशा कोई भी क्वेश्चन आता है critical analysis in any subject in UPSC, but याद रखना geography जैसे words में in your words means in class notes का words या in the textbook का words, because ये subject है scientific. So in your own words मतलब कुछ भी नहीं लिख सकते. The most commonly accepted viewpoint होना चाहिए. So this is what is the critically analyze the continental drift का answer. Now one evidence of an continental drift theory is paleomagnetism, जो मैं sea floor spreading के साथ कराऊंगा, अभी नहीं. That is also one of the evidences of the continental drift theory. So can anyone tell me why do the continents move? Why there is a drifting of the continents occurring? इसका answer was given by Arthur Holmes. Convectional current theory. What is convectional currents? What do you mean by convection? when you make tea in the morning, तो क्या करते हो आप? सबसे पहले बर्तन को साफ करते हो, उसमें पानी डालते हो और वो बर्तन फिर गैस पे रखते हो. तो how does that tea is prepared? Tea is prepared by heating the vessel first. Then vessel is transferring the heat to the bottom of a water body or to that tea. And when this water starts getting heated, this water becomes lighter. It expands, uska density reduces, it becomes lighter. And this water starts coming up. While the जो ऊपर का पानी है जो ठंडा है, it starts coming down, and as a result we see bubbles that are coming up in the water. When the entire water is hot, फिर वो ऊपर आता है. So why, how this heat is transferred? You are giving heat only to the vessel. How this heat is being transferred from the bottom of a vessel to the top? That is due to the convectional currents that are generated in the water. Anywhere where there is a vertical transfer of the heat, it is known as an convectional current. Second example of an convectional current is kabhi in the summer season the ground becomes very hot. As the ground becomes very hot, air which is in contact with the ground ye upar jati, nikal jati. And because this air is going up, side se the air which is on the surrounding regions, jo cold hai, it comes to this region, but it becomes hot, and this is so high heat ki air is thrown vertically upwards, and you call this process as andhi, or you call this process as thunderstorm, or you call this process as sandstorm. So you remember, convection is the vertical transfer of heat. Ab you consider the earth. If we say there is an earth inside, is the crust very thick or very thin? The crust is very thin as compared to the entire earth. If you go below the crust, continental crust का average thickness is 35 kilometers. Oceanic crust का average thickness is 5 kilometers. उसके बाद mantle is 2900 kilometers. उसके बाद the core is 6731 kilometers or 30 kilometers. Even in the mantle, ये ऊपर का 200 जो kilometers है, it consists of magma or lava. It consists of magma. That is, it consists of the molten rocks which are known as magma. Are they in a high temperature? They are in the state of a very high temperature. When they are in the state of very high temperature, the convectional currents arise from the heated interior of the earth. When these convectional currents are arising from the heated interior of the earth, they come on the top and they are blocked by the continent or the oceans. When they are blocked by the continents or the oceans, and if the convectional current is very strong, तो क्या होगा? उसके लिए consider a simple case. कि घर में you have put water to boil or milk to boil, and it has you have covered that with a lid. ये पूरा बर्तन है, and the crust is just the lid या ढक्कन. Understanding this? And if there is a continuous pressure, boiling water में से vapor निकलेगा, or if the milk is coming out, does it have power to remove the lid and come out? Are you getting this? Does it have a power to remove the lid and come out? The same thing is happening in the convectional currents. When the convectional currents become very strong, हमारा crust is वो ढक्कन के जैसा, which is very thin as compared to the 200 kilometers का magma. सिर्फ 5 किलोमीटर या 30 किलोमीटर का thickness है. So this magma or the pressure has the power to break the crust and to remove the crust or to move the crust. And उस crust के ऊपर we are very small objects. So whenever this crust moves, हमें vibration feel होता है, and we will call that vibration as earthquakes. So what causes the movement of the continents or the movement of the drifting of the continents is the convectional currents that arise from the heated interior. And you should just remember, draw this diagram with me. This is nothing but a circle. You can draw a normal circle also and इसके ऊपर, and then so this is one convectional current. This is another convectional current. And this can be the third convectional current. कौन सा?
जैसे ऑस्ट्रेलिया हो गया, इंडिया हो गया, वो अफ्रीका हो गया, तो
उसका रीज़न इज़ डिफरेंट, वो अभी नहीं समझ में आएगा. These convectional currents are responsible for the drifting. यही मैं अभी बता रहा हूँ. क्यों? बिकॉज ये भी तो होना चाहिए कि कौन सा पार्ट टूटेगा, कौन सा पार्ट नहीं टूटेगा. अगर रॉक्स आर स्ट्रॉन्गर तो चाहे कन्वेक्शनल करंट इज स्ट्रॉन्ग, इट कैन रेजिस्ट द कन्वेक्शनल करंट्स. On other hand, if the rocks are not stronger, yeah, the continent is not thicker, उसका कोई रिलेशन ही नहीं है. होने दो. That depends upon the thickness of the earth's crust. अभी नहीं समझ में आएगा, so don't think about. So what is happening here? Convectional currents are rising from the heated mantle. When they are rising from the heated mantle, you can see one part of my convectional current is going in this direction. There can be some other convectional currents because convectional currents बहुत जगह से they can rise. So there is another convectional current which is coming from here and it is going in this direction. These two convectional currents जो है, they are meeting each other. ये एरो क्या है मैं दिखा रहा हूं, एन हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशन कि ये दे आर मीटिंग ईच अदर, क्योंकि ये इस डायरेक्शन से राइज होके यहाँ पे आ रहा है एंड यहाँ पे आने के बाद ये पूरा सेल कंप्लीट कर रहा है. इवन दिस कन्वेक्शनल करंट इज मीटिंग ईच अदर. सो इसके ऊपर का कॉन्टिनेंट जो है इट विल मूव इन विच डायरेक्शन? इन द डायरेक्शन ऑफ एन कन्वेक्शनल करंट. ये ऊपर का कॉन्टिनेंट जो है it will move in which direction? Again in the direction of convectional current. So can I say this is nothing but convergence, and these two convectional currents, can I say, are in different directions? So this continent is moving in some other direction and this is divergence. So क्या वी कैन कंक्लूड कि गोंडवाना इसलिए बहुत पार्ट्स में टूट गया बिकॉज डाइवर्जेंस ज़्यादा होगा बिलो द गोंडवाना का कन्वेक्टिव सेल एज कंपेयर टू द लॉरेशिया लैंड का कन्वेक्टिव सेल्स. अब दिस कन्वेक्शनल करंट्स का एक्चुअली क्या डायरेक्शन है, वाई दे आर मूविंग, वाई दे आर नॉट मूविंग, इट इज़ नॉट येट अंडरस्टूड. सो ये अभी एक्सेप्टेड व्यू पॉइंट है, बट असलियत क्या है, क्यों द कन्वेक्शन, वाई द अर्थ इज मूविंग एक्सेट्रा, स्टिल इफ यू से इट इज नॉट प्रॉपरली अंडरस्टूड. ये है एक्सेप्टेड व्यू पॉइंट बिकॉज ये थोड़ा लॉजिकल लगता है, दैट इज देयर आर कन्वेक्शनल करंट्स. वाई लॉजिकल लगता है, बिकॉज व्हेन द कॉन्टिनेंट्स मूव अवे फ्रॉम ईच अदर, ये जो मैग्मा है ये बाहर आता है एंड वी गेट वॉल्केनोस इन दिस रीजन. हम इसको कहेंगे वॉल्केनोज. और जब अर्थ मूव करेगा तो हम इसको कहेंगे अर्थक्वेक्स. जब ये दो कन्वेक्शनल, ये जो दो कॉन्टिनेंटल लैंड मासेस है एक दूसरे से टकराएंगे, सो व्हाट विल हैपन? So this is one continental landmass, this is another continental landmass. They are both colliding. So some parts will be folded and you will call this as a mountains, fold mountains. So this all thing is explained by the plate tectonic theory. But convectional current theory क्या explain करता है? It explains the forces responsible for the drift. Convectional current theory is not in our syllabus. So you should just know the very basics of the convectional current theory. So why the continents or the earth moves? Because of the convectional currents. Who gave the convectional current theory? Arthur Holmes. So take down 2 points regarding the convectional current theory. The hot convectional currents are generated inside the earth. Hot convectional currents are generated inside the earth due to the presence of molten material, and very high temperature. Due to the presence of molten material and very high temperature. कितना टेम्परेचर है यहाँ पे? समवेयर अराउंड 6000 डिग्री सेल्सियस. 100 डिग्री सेल्सियस ही इनफ है हमारे घर में बर्तन को, लीड को निकालने के लिए. यहाँ पे द 6000 डिग्री सेल्सियस का टेम्परेचर है. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, this convectional currents may converge or diverge. This convectional currents may converge or diverge giving rise to convergence or divergence of land masses. Giving rise to the convergence or divergence of the land masses. Giving rise to the convergence or divergence of a land masses. Convectional current theory thus explains why the continental land masses as well as oceanic crust moves or drifts. कॉन्टिनेंटल ड्रिफ्ट थियरी, ड्रिफ्टिंग ऑफ द कॉन्टिनेंट्स. फोर्स नहीं बता पाया, आइडिया दिया. आर्थर होम्स गेव द फोर्स विच इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द ड्रिफ्ट. हैरी हेस ने कहा सी फ्लोर इज स्प्रेडिंग. वेगनर ने कहा कॉन्टिनेंट्स आर मूविंग. हैरी हेस कह रहा है सी फ्लोर इज मूविंग. और बाद में प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थियरी कुछ और कहती है कि ना सी फ्लोर ना कॉन्टिनेंट्स, व्हाट आर मूविंग इज द plates, and these plates are totally different from continents and the ocean floors. So we will do the plate tectonic theory later on. Interior of the earth. Older view regarding the interior of the earth. Then sources to study the interior of the earth. And the recent views regarding the interior of the earth. ओल्डर व्यू हमने ऑलरेडी किया है. सियाल, सीमा एंड नीफे. सोर्सेस आर ऑफ टू टाइप्स. सम सोर्सेस आर नोन एज डायरेक्ट सोर्सेस, सम सोर्सेस आर नोन एज इनडायरेक्ट सोर्सेस. इनडायरेक्ट सोर्स में वन ऑफ द इंपॉर्टेंट सोर्सेस seismic waves. And this has given, the study of the seismic waves has helped us in understanding what is the recent view regarding the interior of the earth, how the interior of the earth is. Fine with this? So this is our plan to study the interior of the earth. We have already studied the older view. I am quickly revising the older view. Can I say Sial is continental crust? It is dominated by silica and aluminium. It is consists of the lighter minerals having an average density of 2.8 grams per centimeter cube. Then after that, we have Sima. Sima is composed of heavier minerals such as iron and magnesium in addition to silicon. Silicon के साथ there is iron and magnesium. Because of the dominance of silica and magnesium, it is known as an Sima. Magnesium is more heavier than aluminium. Then after that, most of the oceanic crust is made up of Sima. Most common rock is basalt. Because of the presence of iron in the oxide form or in the ferrous form, वहाँ पे the basalt is darker in color. So we say basalt के rocks are always black. और basalt rock से जो soil बनती है. How is soil formed? Soil is formed after the breaking of the rocks, and we call that soil as an black soil. Now that soil supports cotton crop, इसलिए हम उसको कहते हैं black cotton soil. But soil किससे बनी है? Through the basalt. And then lastly, Nephe layer, nickel and iron, जितना भी denser material, I told you, कोई भी चीज़ जब cool होती है, the densest material will go and settle down at the bottom. So earth के core में we have nickel and iron, which are very very dense, and because of this high density, the core is very dense. It is found at the bottom of the earth. Can I say the magnetic property of the earth is due to the presence of iron? Earth behaves like a magnet. Earth में there is north and south pole. So when you suspend a magnet, so magnet points to the north pole and the south pole of the earth. Getting it? जब आप मैग्नेट जब सस्पेंड करते हो, मैग्नेट को जब आप रखते हो तो क्या दिखाता है? विच डायरेक्शंस इट शोज? नॉर्थ एंड साउथ. इट शोज द नॉर्थ पोल एंड द साउथ पोल ऑफ द अर्थ. कैन आई से एक्चुअली वो अर्थ का साउथ पोल दिखाता है एंड वो एक्चुअली इंडिया का साउथ पोल दिखाना चाहिए, बट हम कहते हैं उसको एज अ जोग्राफिक नॉर्थ. दैट इज व्हेन यू सस्पेंड द मैग्नेट, दिस इज द अर्थ, द अर्थ विल से, द मैग्नेट विल से नॉर्थ एंड साउथ. हम इसको कहेंगे दिस इज अ नॉर्थ पोल एंड दिस इज अ साउथ पोल, दिस इज अ मैग्नेट. बट आपने स्कूल डेज में पढ़ा है दैट रिपेल होना चाहिए, ऑपोजिट्स इज अट्रैक्टिंग. सो वैसे देखा गया तो दिस इज एक्चुअली अ साउथ पोल एंड दिस इज अ नॉर्थ पोल ऑफ द अर्थ. दैट इज इफ अर्थ इज कंसिडर्ड एज अ मैग्नेट, तो ये है एक्चुअली साउथ पोल और ये है नॉर्थ पोल. जिसको डिफिकल्ट लग रहा है समझने में, कोई ज़रूरत नहीं समझने की, आई वॉज जस्ट गिविंग यू एन एक्स्ट्रा अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि व्हाट इज दिस. बट यू कॉल दिस एज अ जोग्राफिक नॉर्थ एंड जोग्राफिक साउथ, नॉर्थ पोल एंड साउथ पोल. But then there were, over the period of time, there were numerous sources to study the interior of the earth, and we'll start our today's understanding of the interior of the earth with the help of sources. Some of the sources are direct. Direct matlab we can directly observe them. Some of the sources are indirect, matlab हमें उनको study करना पड़ता है, then we have to analyze and come to out with the conclusion. So we will call them as an indirect sources. So first, some of the key points here. Earth is divided into, interior of the earth is very important topic for both for prelims and mains. So earth is divided into concentric layers. Earth is divided into concentric layers. Earth is divided into concentric layers. Concentric layers means there are layers, circle inside a circle inside a circle. It is divided into the concentric layers. These layers are known as crust, mantle and the core. These layers are known as crust, mantle and the core. The radius of the earth is greater than 6,000 kilometers. The radius of the earth is greater than 6,000 kilometers. Exactly कितना है अभी मत याद रखना, बाद में हम लिखेंगे. Is greater than 6,000 kilometers. And therefore the study of the interior of the earth, is difficult. Direct sources. What is the best direct source to study anything? Here, go and observe. So what can be the best direct source to study the interior of the earth? Digging a hole, that is, this is the entire earth, this is the radius 6371 kilometers. So dig a hole inside the earth and study the कि कैसा है earth. So अगर crust है, ये mantle है, so go dig a hole and study what is there in the mantle, what is there in the core, etc. So this is a source, the best source. Possible है नहीं है. Why? क्योंकि जैसे आप नीचे जाओगे तो टेम्परेचर विल इंक्रीज, जैसे आप नीचे जाओगे तो प्रेशर विल इंक्रीज, डेंसिटी विल इंक्रीज. हमारे बॉडी पे अभी हम खड़े हैं ऑन द ग्राउंड, कितना प्रेशर इज देयर इन आवर बॉडी, ऑन आवर बॉडी? एटमॉस्फेरिक प्रेशर जिसको हम कहते हैं, वी आर स्टैंडिंग हियर, अंडरस्टैंड, वी आर स्टैंडिंग हियर. So हमारे in our body on a single square centimeter of our body there is 1 kg of the pressure of air. So जितनी on each and every centimeter of our body, and we will call this as an atmospheric pressure. So why is this? Because हमारे ऊपर there is atmosphere which consists of troposphere. Troposphere के ऊपर there is stratosphere. Stratosphere के ऊपर there is mesosphere. Mesosphere के ऊपर there is exosphere. ये सारा जो pressure है that is present on our body right now. But then how we can survive? We can survive because our body can give out the exact equal amount of pressure. And इसलिए हमारी body compress नहीं होती. But if you go deep inside, there air के pressure के बाद there will be the pressure of rocks also. And the pressure inside the earth will be million times greater than that of an earth, than that on the atmosphere. And thus you cannot survive. In fact, if you go inside the sea also, if you go very deep inside the sea, can you easily go, can you go into the Mariana Trench? No, you cannot go into the Mariana Trench. Why you cannot go into the Mariana Trench? Because अंदर जाओगे तो body will फट जाएगी, burst हो जाएगी. In fact, if जब आप take a sudden jump in the water, जब आप नदी में या swimming pool में, if you do not dive and if you take a sudden vertical jump, your body cannot adjust to the increasing amount of pressure. बाहर का pressure बढ़ जाता है और अंदर का body cannot adjust to the increasing amount of pressure. इसलिए you experience कि नाक के अंदर, कान के अंदर पानी घुस जाता है. Why? Because अंदर का pressure हम अभी adjust कर पा रहे हैं because body is putting the exact amount of pressure on the atmosphere. But suddenly jump inside the deep water body, आप if you go suddenly vertically downwards, बाहर का pressure इतना ज़्यादा बढ़ जाता है that your body cannot adjust and therefore नाक में, कान में पानी घुस जाता है. See, all has this scientific explanation. So इसीलिए we are, if you want to go into water, dive करने के लिए बोलते हैं. That is, go धीरे से अंदर, so that your body can equally adjust to the pressure. Now when we say digging holes, ये तो possible नहीं है inside the earth. This means, can I say, studying the interior of the earth in mines or coal fields or mines or digging a hole through the interior of the earth? It is not possible because human beings have succeeded going only up to the depth of, कितना है deepest mine on the earth? 5 kilometer is the deepest mine on the earth. किसके अंदर? हाँ, ओशन नहीं, ऑन द अर्थ. हाउ मच हम, वी आर वेरी वेरी एडवांस्ड, हमारे पास बहुत अच्छी अच्छी मशीनरी है, साइंटिफिकली वी आर वेरी एडवांस्ड. कितना डीप हम माइन बना सके हैं, कितना हम मैक्सिमम होल बना सके हैं डीप इनसाइड द अर्थ. व्हाट इज द रेडियस ऑफ द अर्थ? Human beings have succeeded only up to digging the hole up to 3.1 kilometers या 3.2 kilometers. That is the deepest mine in the world, the deepest hole in the world. उसके नीचे और जाओगे तो possible नहीं है because इतना ज़्यादा pressure हो जाता है body के ऊपर कि you cannot survive. जब when you go into a very very fast lift, कुछ बिल्डिंग्स में होता है कि विदिन 7 seconds द लिफ्ट गोज 25th 26th फ्लोर. बाहर आके थोड़ा चक्कर आएगा. क्यों? क्योंकि प्रेशर कम हो जाता है एंड हल्की लगती है बॉडी. तो सिमिलरली इफ यू गो वेरी वेरी डीप, सर फटने लग जाता है बिकॉज द ऊपर का प्रेशर बढ़ता है. एंड सम पीपल सफर फ्रॉम हार्ट अटैक ऑल्सो बिकॉज सी ये क्या है, अंदर केमिकल्स ही तो है हमारे बॉडी में. एक फ्लो ही तो है रिवर का जिसको हम कहते हैं ब्लड. And that blood has to be given a proper direction. अगर blood का pressure बढ़ गया तो जैसे flood आता है ground पे, that is breaking the channel, वैसे हमारा blood breaks the veins and we call that as an heart attack, or we call that as an hemorrhage, or we call that as an by different names. So everything here is related by a law, natural laws. So you should remember that digging a hole is not possible and write this, that is how much deep we have done. So what the human beings have done इसके बाद कि अर्थ के ऊपर तो हम जा नहीं सकते because we have succeeded only up to the depth of 3 kilometers के आसपास. So we started studying the oceans. And when we started studying the oceans, it was done in the form of deep ocean drilling projects. Now what is this deep ocean drilling projects? There is a ship which is there. The ship will have a robotic arm, and this robotic arm will go deep inside, and then uske baad it will keep on digging the hole. And in this way we have succeeded up to the depth of 12 kilometers. But what is the radius of the earth? 6371 kilometers. Remember, इस 12 kilometers में 6 kilometer तो ocean ही है. 6 kilometer deep is ocean. So actually we have included maximum up to the depth of 6 kilometers only, because the average depth of the ocean is 6 kilometers. All this thing is given in your NCERT. That is the page number, chapter number 3. So we have started with the chapter number 3. You can go home and read the chapter number 3 of the NCERT, that is the fundamentals of physical geography. एंड धीरे धीरे करके दैट इज एनसीईआरटी मेरे साथ कर लो क्योंकि इसकी लैंग्वेज थोड़ी डिफिकल्ट है, समझ में नहीं आएगी, बट आवर स्टैंडर्ड रेफरेंस विल बी आवर नोट्स इटसेल्फ फॉर बोथ प्रीलिम्स एंड मेंस, बट यू कैन डू क्विकली द एनसीईआरटी आल्सो. सो दिस ओशन प्रोजेक्ट्स आर नोन एज डीप ओशन ड्रिलिंग प्रोजेक्ट्स व्हिच हैव आल्सो नॉट given us the required information regarding the interior of the earth. So studying the interior of the earth, digging a hole. So you can take down iske andar, this includes studying the mines, studying deep mines, as well as deep ocean drilling projects, as well as deep ocean drilling projects, as well as deep ocean drilling projects. But as pressure, temperature, and density increases, we have been able to go only up to the depth of, we have been able to go only up to a depth of, we have been able to go only up to the depth of 3 kilometers on the land, 3 kilometers on the land, and 12 kilometers on the ocean surfaces. 3 kilometers on the land and 12 kilometers on the ocean surfaces. Second direct source is then the study of volcanoes. कि चलो हम अंदर नहीं जा सकते तो जो बाहर आता है उसको स्टडी कर लेंगे. So the volcanoes, when we study volcanoes is what? क्या आता है volcano में से? Magma और lava. Can you tell me the difference between magma and lava? एक general knowledge का question.
So when it is inside that molten, it is called magma, and when it comes outside, it is called lava.
Any other कि इसमें chemical composition में difference है या क्या है? क्या difference है between magma and lava? कोई difference नहीं है. जब molten rock material when it is below the earth हम उसको कहेंगे magma, जब वो बाहर आता है on the surface of the earth हम उसको कहेंगे lava. So इंग्लिश में difference है, हिंदी में तो कोई भी difference नहीं है. ज्वालामुखी और ज्वाला, ज्वाला ही है. So that ज्वाला, if it is present below the earth, magma. अगर if it is present on the surface of the earth, then उसको कहेंगे हम lava. That is the only difference between the magma and lava. So what we study, this magma and lava, can I say it is nothing but rock? Because of high heat it is molten. That rock comes on the surface, cools and solidifies. It can solidify and form granite, it can solidify and form basalt, it can solidify and form gabbro, it can solidify, that basalt can over the period of time change etc. into different forms. कुछ जगह diamond बनेगा, कुछ जगह different types of rocks will be forming. So ये rocks का color etc. can I say depends upon the chemical composition inside the earth. हमें तो अर्थ को क्यों स्टडी करना है, हमें टू स्टडी कि एक्चुअली क्या है, कौन से मिनरल्स है, कौन से केमिकल कंपोजिशन है. सो वी आर स्टडिंग दैट विद द हेल्प ऑफ वॉल्केनोस. सो कैन आई से द वॉल्केनोस गिव्स अस अ बेसिक आइडिया ऑफ द केमिकल कंपोजिशन दैट इज प्रेजेंट इनसाइड द अर्थ. बट इसके साथ प्रॉब्लम इज द मैक्सिमम डेप्थ जहां से वॉल्केनिक इरप्शंस हैव बीन रिकॉर्डेड इज 400 kilometers, while the average depth is 200 kilometers. And what is the radius of the earth? 6371 kilometers. So volcanoes को अगर आपने स्टडी किया तो you will get an idea only up to the depth of 200 or 400 kilometers. और यही लिखना है. So you can take down the study of volcanoes. The study of volcanoes gives us idea of the constituent of interior of the earth, gives us idea of the constituent of the interior of the earth. But volcanoes mostly occur from the depth of 200 kilometers. ब्रैकेट में ये वर्ड लिखना, बाद में मैं कल समझाऊंगा व्हाट इज दिस वर्ड. asthenosphere mostly occur from 200 kilometers. We call this as an asthenosphere. And thus volcanic eruption can give us idea of only up to 200 kilometers. And thus volcanic eruptions give us idea of up to only 200 kilometers. You don't have test today. टेस्ट कल है MCQ का, बिकॉज उसके लिए कुछ होना भी तो चाहिए. इट इज़ अभी तक एक इंट्रोडक्शन का ही लेक्चर और कल वाला एक लेक्चर. सो एक लेक्चर से कितने ज्योग्राफी क्वेश्चन बनेंगे. सो आई हैव पोस्टपोन्ड इट फॉर द टुमारो. हिस्ट्री के भी है, ज्योग्राफी के भी, एंड करंट अफेयर्स भी है. दैट इज हिंदू के भी क्वेश्चंस है. ज्योग्राफी के जो मैंने आपको मैप के लोकेशंस बताए उसके आसपास के भी मैं क्वेश्चंस पूछूंगा. सो एनी अदर डायरेक्ट सोर्स? क्या हो सकता है तीसरा? मीटियोर्स डायरेक्ट, इनडायरेक्ट? व्हाई डायरेक्ट? Direct means you are directly studying the interior of the earth or not. Meteors, when you are studying, you are not studying the interior of the earth. You are studying the meteor and then analyzing something कि हाँ maybe the interior of the earth is this way. So NCERT as well as standard books. Now you understand one thing. जो हम indirect source जो कर रहे हैं, volcanoes in some of the standard books have been taken as an indirect source. In some of the standard in the books has been taken as a direct source. So उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता direct source या indirect source. अगर ये obviously है direct source. Now he is saying meteors can be a direct source. Yes, some of the books say meteors are direct source. Some of the books, including our NCERT, says it is an indirect source. So don't get confused. जो follow करना है एक ही चीज़ follow करना. So अभी you will be following the class notes, follow the class notes only. Don't get confused कि किसी एक बुक ने दिया as a direct, किसी एक बुक ने दिया as an indirect. Don't get confused by that. And ये जो controversial parts है, ये ऐसे question UPSC भी नहीं पूछेंगे prelims में. कि for example volcanic eruption direct है indirect है, ऐसे questions नहीं आएंगे. But see, logically it is an direct source only, because you are directly analyzing something that is coming from interior of the earth. Meteors. So what are the meteors? We have done. What is the meteor? Meteors are extraterrestrial dust particles. See, when the earth was formed, when the solar system was formed due to the Big Bang, there was planets were formed जो बड़े dust था, जो बड़े टुकड़े थे planets बन गए, जो छोटे छोटे टुकड़े थे after explosion. Some of them are known as asteroids, some of them are known as meteors. So where are asteroids? Asteroids are found between the Mars and Jupiter. Meteors कहीं पे भी. Can asteroid enter the interior of the earth, surface of the earth? Asteroid कभी आता है? Can there be an impact of asteroid coming and hitting the earth? No. Meteors, yes, they come and hit the surface of the earth. What are these comets? Comet is not shooting star. What is? देखो बिग बैंग के हिसाब से जो टुकड़े फैले ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम आफ्टर एक्सप्लोजन, और जो कुछ कुछ वॉर्म था, वो आज भी फेंके जा रहे हैं. एवरीथिंग इज रिलेटिविटी. उनकी वो स्पीड बहुत, बिकॉज इट इज़ एन हाई मास एनर्जी, वो आज भी फेंका जा रहा है. हमारे लिए ये एक जनरेशनल चेंज हो जाता है, बट दैट इज लिविंग उसका लाइफ साइकिल. सो उसमें देर आर सम ऑफ द डस्ट जिनमें आग लगी थी, वो आज भी दे आर गोइंग अराउंड द सोलर सिस्टम, एंड इट कंसिस्ट ऑफ सम पार्ट विच इज कूल्ड, सम पार्ट विच इज वार्म. वी विल कॉल देम एज कॉमेट्स. मीटियोर्स, डस्ट पार्टिकल्स व्हेन दे एंटर द अर्थ का एटमॉस्फेयर, एज सुन एज दे क्रॉस द मेसोस्फियर, जो मैंने अभी बनाया था, ये सब हम बाद में फिर से करेंगे, it's just for understanding abhi. When they come inside the mesosphere, when they come in the mesosphere, in the earth's atmosphere, due to the presence of gases, more amount of gases on the surface of the earth, they undergo friction, and because they undergo friction, वो जल जाते हैं, जिसको you call in Hindi as टूटता तारा, और you call in English as wishing star. मीटियोर्स को देखते हो जलते हुए कमिंग इनसाइड द अर्थ, हमें लगता है तारा जल रहा है, वो कुछ कुछ होता है ना जब से दिखा है तब से, एंड देन वी विश समथिंग. सो दैट इज नथिंग, that is not a shooting star or anything, that is just a meteors which when we come on the surface of the earth they burn. Why they burn? Because of high amount of friction and they come inside the interior of the earth. मैंने आपको कल्पना चावला का भी जो इंसिडेंट बताया था. But when they burn, when they come inside the earth and they burn, what happens is उनका crust burn हो जाता है, उनका mantle burn हो जाता है, और sometimes when they fall, so बचता है सिर्फ core. And by studying their core and applying the logic of Big Bang theory that the earth के सारे particles were formed by the same process and उनका same है constituent, we can analyze at least indirectly कि हाँ मे बी अगर meteor का कोर है ऐसा, तो अर्थ का भी कोर हो सकता है ऐसा. सो व्हाट वी हैव अंडरस्टूड बाय स्टडिंग ऑफ द मीटियोर्स, वी हैव अंडरस्टूड बाय स्टडिंग ऑफ द मीटियोर्स कि मीटियोर्स में जो अपर लेयर है क्रस्ट वो बहुत कम डेंसिटी का है. सो वी से अर्थ का क्रस्ट इज ऑफ अ लेसर डेंसिटी. उसमें भी एक लेयर है मैंटल, इट इज ऑफ अ medium density. So earth में भी we have understood there is a mantle of a medium density, and then वहाँ पे भी एक thing है which is known as core which has mostly iron. So we say कि yes earth का has mostly iron. Then we see कि हाँ magnetic property भी है, then we say yes iron है, 100% iron है. Then when we study the volcanoes, that volcanoes come out having a greater amount of denser rocks, and then we can conclude our findings. हाँ जो हमने meteoroid से पढ़ा था, that is yes, it is being proved right, because you have to understand ये part ऐसा है geography का this part interior of the earth कि आप जाके पढ़ ही नहीं सकते हो. Neither we have technology, neither we have resources to go inside the earth. So what we take some inputs from here, we take some inputs from here, and then we conclude in detail. बट ज्योग्राफी इज ओनली इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ. उसका बहुत ज़्यादा जब आप इंटीरियर में चले जाते हो और उसमें भूल जाते हो तो वो सब्जेक्ट है जियोलॉजी. जब रॉक्स को या अर्थ को, सी व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन जियोलॉजी एंड ज्योग्राफी. ये अर्थ है और उसके नीचे का पार्ट इज जियोलॉजी. ये अर्थ के ऊपर का पार्ट is geography. So meteors will be the part of the geographical part because they come on the interior of the earth. Now are you directly studying the interior of the earth with studying the meteors? No, you are concluding something, and therefore I have taken it as an indirect source. So take down meteors. By studying the meteors, we can conclude that the inner part of the earth is made up of denser materials, is made up of denser materials. This is because when meteors enter the earth, their upper part is burned. Exposing the core. But don't write. But अच्छा है, meteors से हम इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ नहीं स्टडी कर रहे, बिकॉज क्या होगा. थैंकफुली आजकल meteors कम आते हैं. थैंकफुली मोस्ट ऑफ द meteors बर्न बिफोर रीचिंग द सरफेस ऑफ द अर्थ. नहीं तो चलते समय हेलमेट पहनना पड़ता. कभी भी meteor इज कमिंग एंड हिटिंग द, ऊपर से कोई ऐसे पत्थर फेंक रहा है, क्योंकि और बड़े बड़े जब meteors आए हैं तो इट हैज़ कॉस्ट कैटेस्ट्रॉफ, मतलब इट हैज़ डिस्ट्रॉयड द अर्थ. जो आगे कभी भी हो सकता है, दे आर सेइंग. उसके ऊपर एक मूवी भी बनी है, आर्मेगेडोन आई गेस. दैट इज बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट, meteoric impact on the earth and destruction of the earth. इससे पहले जब meteor impact हुआ है on the surface of the earth, क्या हुआ है, volcanic eruptions. या छोटे छोटे जब meteor impact हुए हैं on the surface of the earth, lakes etc. अभी तक एक भी recorded history नहीं है of a human being killed by a meteor impact. दो पिछले साल तमिलनाडु में, 2 साल पहले तमिलनाडु में अ स्कूल बस ड्राइवर डाइड ड्यू टू meteor हिट. वेरी वेरी स्मॉल meteor, वो डायरेक्टली उसके सर पे गिरा एंड ही डाइड इंस्टेंटली. बट इट हैज़ नॉट बिन एक्सेप्टेड बाय द ऑफिशियल बॉडीज. जियोलॉजिकल सोसाइटी भी कहता है, इसरो भी कहता है और नासा भी कहता है नहीं, ये meteor इम्पैक्ट नहीं है. बट देयर लोकल न्यूज़पेपर लोकल पुलिस ने कहा ये मीटियोर है. सो जैसे वी हैड हरियाणा का केस अभी अप्रैल में, उसने लोकल पुलिस ने कहा कि मीटियोर गिर गया ऑन द सरफेस ऑफ द अर्थ उसके खेत में, एंड ही समहाउ सर्वाइव्ड, बट उसके ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा डिप्रेशन फॉर्म हुआ था उस खेत में. दिल्ली में ही है, इसलिए फट से इसरो की और इसकी टीम गई और उन्होंने बोला कि ये कोई मीटियोर और सब नहीं है, ये प्लेन में से शिट है, ह्यूमन शिट जो फेंकी गई है, एंड इट हैज़ ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम सॉलिडिफाइड नीचे आते आते, एंड इट हैज़ हिट द सरफेस. इसीलिए उसके बाद नेशनल ग्रीन ट्राइब्यूनल ने कहा कि मिड एयर डिस्पोजल मत बंद किया करो, नहीं तो उससे धोखा हो सकता है कुछ भी, दैट ह्यूमन बींग्स कैन die. So we have then after that stopped the mid-air disposal of the waste product from the aircrafts, because you can understand one thing here, that जो आप ऊपर if you dispose of, obviously it is going to come down with the gravity, and when it is being disposed of in the mid-air, it gets converted into snow because temperature is very less, and then it falls down. Sometimes we experience that कि चल रहे हैं कुछ नहीं पर एक बूंद गिर गया, एंड देन वी लुक, अरे कहाँ से गिर गया ये बूंद, एंड देन बट हमें ये पता नहीं था कि व्हाट इज दैट. दैट इज टर्म्ड एज ब्लू आइस विच हैज़ बीन गिवन आउट थ्रू द एयरक्राफ्ट्स. नीचे नीचे आते आते जनरली वो मेल्ट हो जाता है एंड इट इज डिस्ट्रॉयड. सो दिस इज व्हाट इज द मीटियोर्स. एंड सेकंड इज studying the temperature and pressure in the interior of the earth. This is an indirect source. That is, जैसे हम we cannot go inside, so we somehow analyze how much is the pressure increase, how much is the temperature increase in the interior of the earth. So can I conclude 2 and 3 points? Don't write anything, just tell me yes or no. As you go inside the earth, temperature goes on increasing, right? So the highest temperature should be in core, right? And because the highest temperature is in core, the core should be in the molten format. Am I right? कि आप जैसे नीचे जाते हो, the temperature is going to increase. So जैसे आप नीचे नीचे जाते हो, the temperature इतना बढ़ जाएगा that it should be in the molten format. Now I'm asking you whether this is right or wrong. Is the core in the molten format? No. Why it is not in the molten format? Pressure. जैसे आप नीचे जाते हो, temperature के साथ density and pressure is also increasing. So when the pressure increases, किसी भी चीज का melting point is increased, and because the melting point is increased, the inner part of the earth, in spite of high temperature, are not in the molten format. Understanding this simple thing, देखो there are two ways. जैसे temperature बढ़ेगा, anything will melt, but temperature के साथ साथ अगर pressure भी बढ़ा, तो that thing does not melt. It does not melt. So इसीलिए what happens in this, when you use the pressure cooker, वो pressure release कर देता है. अगर pressure release नहीं हुआ, pressure बढ़ते बढ़ते गया, तो कोई चीज़ें cook नहीं होगी. They will not get converted into a, that is दाल जैसी, मतलब वो soft नहीं हो जाएगी. So therefore pressure has to be released over the period of time. फिर से क्या करते हो आप, temperature और pressure बढ़ा रहे हो in बर्तन, and then you are suddenly releasing a pressure. 3 बार 4 बार सीटी लगने के बाद आप बोलते हो हाँ XYZ पक गया, अब सब्जी पक गई, दाल पक गई, what etc it is. So all these things you have to apply it here, your daily life का examples. So जैसे आप नीचे जाते हो, temperature is also increasing, pressure is also increasing, but temperature के साथ साथ pressure increases to such an extent that the earth, नीचे का earth is in solid form, not in the liquid form. In fact, अभी recent studies have shown that the highest temperature is not in the mantle or core. The highest temperature is in the crust. Why it is in the crust? It is in the crust because crust के अंदर रेडियो एक्टिव मिनरल्स सबसे ज़्यादा है, दैट इज़ यूरेनियम, द जैसे थोरियम एक्सेट्रा, दे ऑल आर प्रेजेंट इन द अपर पार्ट ऑफ द क्रस्ट ओनली. So this is what are the major points you take down. Two minutes.
आज हमारे जो ज्योग्राफी क्लास नहीं होगी.
नहीं. मनु, चैतन्य सर का फोन. So you can take down that as we go inside, both temperature and pressure increases. Both temperature and pressure increases. Both temperature and pressure increases. Full stop. The rate of increase of temperature, is more in the upper part, because the upper part is dominated by radioactive minerals, उसी लाइन में नेक्स्ट, उसी पॉइंट में नेक्स्ट सब पॉइंट. बट एज वी गो डीपर, along with the temperature, pressure also increases. Along with the temperature, pressure also increases, and hence most of the earth except the outer core is in solid form. सिर्फ outer core is in the liquid form, बाकी सारा earth is in the solid form. Why? Because as you are going deeper, along with the temperature, pressure is also increasing. अब देखो इसका application. If you have understood this, you can understand why asthenosphere is in the molten format, not in the liquid format, but in the molten format. Asthenosphere कहाँ है, ऊपर या नीचे? It is comparatively only top 200 kilometers. So वहाँ पे as you are going down, temperature तो increase हो रहा है, but pressure relatively is not increasing. And because the pressure is not increasing, the rocks here are in the jelly-like या semi-molten state, or what we'll call they are in the form of magma. But उसके नीचे जाओगे तो temperature के साथ साथ pressure is also increasing, and again the rocks will start becoming solid. इसीलिए volcanic eruptions occur from only 200 to maximum 400 kilometers, because उसके बाद pressure increases such along with the temperature कि it will increase the melting point. Getting it? Now that is the same thing. The asthenosphere in the bracket top 200 kilometers, sorry, the asthenosphere in the bracket up to 200 kilometers is in is in a jelly-like format. Asthenosphere is in a jelly-like format. It is not in the liquid form. किस form में है? It is in the jelly-like manner, not in the liquid manner. So we'll continue the rest of the sources tomorrow.